Not your average tabletop. Woohoo!
Welcome to Not Your Average Tabletop. I'm Zach,
And I'm Pepper.
and today we're back with another episode of Take My Money, where we look at some current crowdfunding projects related to board games and just kind of give our thoughts on them if we're interested or not interested at all. But it was pretty slim pickings these weeks. I think this will could possibly be the last one we do this year, just because it seems like there's not too many projects going on right now. Probably makes sense. I think a lot of people are probably spending their money on gifts and other things right now during the holiday season. So I don't know that there's usually that hot of uh, Kickstarters or GameFound
Yeah.
projects.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we've only got a few of them today. It'll probably still take us hours to get through them. So sit back and relax and let us know what you're waiting to get from Kickstarter. So I have a few of them that I feel like should be coming within the month. So hopeful. We'll
Yeah.
see.
We are
But the
starting off with a big one. I guess it doesn't have much competition. That's why everyone is flocking to Enormity. It's got almost 4,000 backers, but only just under 60 hours to go. That'll be less by the time this video is posted. So if you want this one, I don't know, late pledge if they'll have that or not. Most of them do, but I mean, best to go check it out immediately if you are interested. Over $860,000. So this one's doing pretty successful. My immediate thought, theme-wise, is Alien or Aliens, that
hmm
type of thing where you're on the spaceship and exploring and there's monsters lurking around to pop out and try to take you down at any moment. So
it's
I like the theme.
yeah, I agree. I was kind of thinking it kind of had this. I was thinking that same thing pretty much, and it's just weird to me that Nemesis, I think, was the first one to kind of do it. I could be
Yep.
wrong. There might have been other ones that did it before that, but that one's definitely a popular one that kind of did this aliens theme without being aliens.
Yes.
And I feel like there have been a few more now that have kind of done the same thing where it's like, oh, you're in space on a spaceship and there's and it's like, how do they keep getting away with this?
I don't know. I think there actually is like an aliens themed thing. It's in some series of games, like forget what it was. It's some series, Legendary or something. I think there's like Alien Legendary, like Marvel Legendary, but Aliens or something like that. There is an actual IP Alien game, but it is not, I don't think. It might be one of these dungeon crawl type things, but yeah, there are quite a few of these. Which, if I'm going to get one, I'm probably just going to go with Nemesis, just because that is the most known one. Although there's already like three, four versions of Nemesis, so I'd have to narrow it down even further from those. So it's
Yeah,
hard to
that's
get
that
into.
is true, and I think because of kind of I don't know, to me anyway, we felt this with our other games, but so it might not actually be as difficult as it seems. But there's something about Nemesis that seems a little overwhelming, so it's kind of always just been that one that like I like the thought of the theme, but and it's supposed to be a good game, but it just seems a little bit overwhelming. But maybe if we ended up playing it, I'd be like, wow, I don't know why I was so afraid.
Yeah.
So yeah, that makes it tough for any of these other ones that I immediately kind of think of the
Mhm.
alien thing. 'Cause it's like I just as well probably do that established one because usually these are a little bit more on the spendy side. These dungeon crawl style games and currently unproven. I guess the publisher themselves might be a little bit more proven.
Yeah.
So there is that at least because it looks like they have some creative projects here.
Yeah. I do
But
like the
yeah,
cover quite a bit.
yeah, I don't know.
I mean,
I
it's
will
not
say
just
when I first,
darkness,
yeah,
like a
when I
lot of
first saw it, I was like, I don't love the name. Not the biggest fan of the cover, but then I saw how many people it had supporting, and I'm like, well, we got to cover this one because it's one of the biggest ones this week. So, yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of the artwork and stuff in this one, uh, but I am sure there's a chance it could be good. It's just I think any dungeon crawl style game now on these site or Kickstarter Game Found unfortunately feels like they have to have all this extra content and stuff. So there was like what a bunch of those
Yeah,
expansion
I
style
think like
boxes already, and it's like,
four campaign expansions.
I feel
Huge.
like I've unfortunately gotten to the point. There was a point in time where, oh, yeah, look at all this extra content. That's really exciting. But I think I'm at the point in my board game career life that I'm currently like, oh, now that just makes it seem very overwhelming, makes it very hard for me to want to get it because I'm like, don't have that much shelf space. This is going to take up two, three shelves. No, maybe not that many, but it might only take up a cube. But
Yeah. Yeah, and
it
I
just
think that's
feels like it'd be
one
a lot.
mentioned maybe like it's easy to set up, like, oh, or maybe it wasn't this one. I thought this it might not be this one. Because this does not look easy to set up, but it might have been.
It might
I
be.
think you can play campaign or just individual things, and it sounded like you could turn it into a campaign whenever you want, and you can go by either the story campaign, which will have an ending, or just kind of your own ever evolving as you explore this massive ship, which I think is made up of kind of spiral notebooks. And I think it might be a set map, kind of like seventh continent, where I think that map is always set. It's going to be the same, so you might need some memory. I think that's how it is here, but I'm not sure. And it had a cool thing that made me think of Cthulhu Death May Die, where kind of the more damage you get, the more powerful you become, the more heroic and brave you become, and kind of the same thing for the baddies too. So it's never really just a steamroll win for either side, or at least that's the goal here.
Mhm.
I think they used kind of a similar system in other games, so
I do like
like
that.
those other games, I think that sounds pretty cool.
Yeah, that does sound cool. I do like the sound of that, that type of combat system. So hopefully that actually feels like it works out and doesn't like, I don't know, feel like a bit of a like slog to where it's like, oh, if I'm winning early, then all of a sudden the boss
Sure.
gets more difficult, and then it slows the fight down, and then I get hurt, and then that slows. As long as it doesn't
Sure.
turn into a slog of a fight every time, that'd be good.
That's true.
But I do like the idea of yeah, a monster getting. It's kind of interesting to think of a monster getting more powerful as they're
Right.
getting weak, while you're also doing the same thing.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah, so the additions, you can kind of get this normal version, which I think would have standees probably. For 90 bucks, go with a special edition version for 140 bucks. So yeah, that one includes miniatures. And then you can add on the individual expansions if you want, or you can go kind of this all in with, it looks like four campaign expansions, and that brings it up to 350 bucks. And shipping is going to be another 30 plus dollars. So that is not we ain't gonna be going in on that, but 1,300 backers have gone for that highest pledge. Wow.
yeah, that's pretty impressive that they're getting that much of a pull, and um, yeah, hopefully it's a really solid game, and just makes the more and more of these that I see, I'm just like, who are the people creating some of these things that have like these long story modes? That's like, I'm assuming this one's kind of like a lot of these other ones where it's, tens, if not hundreds of hours of gameplay. It's like, wow, I don't even know. Obviously, that makes you question like, did they really test all these things?
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe there's a set system that doesn't really change, but it's just more of the story kind of changes. I don't know, but
Yeah.
just
Yeah,
makes me
it's
wonder
like
for all of these, where it's like, oh, when you get into hour 50, how well balanced are these things, or is it enough changes still at that point that it's like, that wasn't really tested well, maybe.
yeah.
Always makes me question that when there's any of these that, offer all this stuff.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, it is crazy how they can seemingly pump those out.
it does seem like there's so
Somehow
many
on
of them.
like a
I don't know.
yearly basis, and like Ryan Lockett doing Sleeping Gods, and it's just massive game. And it's like, oh, he's probably gonna take a little break after that, and he's like, nope, we've got the sequel right here next year. And I'm like,
That's true.
what are
It's
you
crazy.
doing? Crazy.
Yeah, very popular game there. So hopefully it will be a really solid one. And people will be talking about it next year. Well, delivers at the end of next year. So maybe in 2026 they will be talking about this one.
Yes, but you're not a big fan of space themes, but
Yeah.
I think you're a little bit bigger fan of Vikings and kind of pirates looking here.
Yes, I am. And I feel like when it must have been the day that this one dropped onto Kickstarter, but I had like a bunch of videos pop up at the same time. I was at first when I saw the cover, I was like, is that a kid's game? That was
It
my
looks
kind of
very
initial thought.
friendly, very
It does
friendly.
look very friendly, and that's how I was like, what is this? And I actually hadn't looked at it until I looked at it a little bit before we were shooting this video, and I was like, it's got a few interesting things in there. I don't. It'd be interesting to see how that actually works out, or if it just ends up being a gimmick. But I think the coolest thing, and I'm like, I don't know how this hasn't been done before that I know of. There might be other ones that do something like this, but it's just maybe not as like visually pleasing where there's a compass that you're using or there's a compass on the board, and depending on like the positioning of this thing and how it's positioned, you can see it changes the direction and stuff. And I'm just like, there's something really cool about that, but I don't know, when you're actually playing the game, how that ends up working, if that's actually interesting or if it's more or less like, well, I'm going to do this to turn it to that to get this, and if it's more just a cool way to represent doing something when it could have just kind of been,
Yeah.
oh, I'm turning my ship or something.
Yeah, that's my biggest concern about it is just, I'm like, what is this action? Like, is this actually something you're doing, just rotating it to wherever you like it? Or is it actually just adding another layer to kind of things to consider in your turn? Because I think that's kind of where I think it would be best. Where if it's like, oh, but if I do this, and that's going to move that way. I think those kind of give and take that it could put into the game is how I would like it. I don't know if it's going to be that or if it's just going to be simple. Where do you want to put it this turn? And it really doesn't need to be a magnet. Hopefully, it is actually very interesting in the way it's implemented, the way it affects the game, because I think that's kind of how what direction you're moving your ship. I think that affects, which
Mhm.
I like. I like that concept, and I
Yeah.
hope this isn't just kind of like a very simple first draft version of something like this. Hopefully, this is something that can uh, just be talked about and be
Right.
great.
Yeah. I agree. Because at first when I saw it, I'm like, oh, it's the board itself? Does it have a bunch of magnets in it? And wherever you set that is what I was thinking. And that's not the case, right? It's just totally based off of that
Just
one miniature.
I think yeah, just I think there's that miniature, and then I think there's three more.
Oh.
What's in the box? I think yeah, I think each player must have. It'll be in here somewhere. Must have one, and then I think there's that bigger one as well. Okay,
Mhm.
these ones. So one wind miniature with magnet, and then three ravens miniatures with magnets. So there
Okay.
are four to kind of maneuver it.
Because
So
yeah, at
oh
first when I saw it,
yeah,
for some reason thinking like all the spaces had it, and depending on what space it was in, it would like
oh
change something. I was like,
that'd
that's
be
kind of
cool.
interesting, but yeah, I suppose that this would probably work a little bit better. Uh, but yeah, I had hoped too that that wouldn't make it. Don't know exactly. Didn't look at like a gameplay of this, but hope it wouldn't become like too much of an abstract strategy game. That might be something Jesse would really like. But myself, if you're like, okay, I have to position this here, so then it's going to turn the magnet this or the compass this way, and then so and so forth. But this one's cooperative, right?
I believe
So
so.
you'd be
Yes.
working together on that anyway. But uh, yeah, I thought the price wasn't too bad.
Yeah, it was at 65 for the Jarl pledge, which includes miniatures there, and 55 for the retail edition, which I mean, if they're that close, just bump it up, get a few
That's kind of what I was
miniatures.
thinking. I'm like, yeah, I would probably just get the 65 and yeah, get the few extra miniatures. Don't know that that's that big of a difference if you don't care about miniatures, but at that point, 10 more bucks,
Yeah,
definitely not awful.
yeah. As I kind of saw the board here, I'm like, okay, because I kind of felt the same way that initially it kind of looks like a very light game, possibly kids' weight game, but then once I started seeing kind of all these different things on the board, it looked a lot more interesting.
Mhm.
And a boat, having a boat as a separate little board to put things on. It doesn't have to be a 3D structure, or maybe it does. I don't know what they're working into this game,
It's
but
true.
you do adjust the sail. I don't know if that's just for show. You can put a little raised up version or that one. Or if maybe you're actually having a fan blow at this boat and it's actually moving it across your table. Who knows? They're doing
You
that
might
with
have
the
to.
magnets. What else are they doing?
Yeah, I like the look of this little boat as well. It made me uh, made me think of like Forgotten Waters. I'm like, that'd be cool if that had this boat on it or something. Even though it's not needed in there, but it made me think that would be pretty cool. So yeah, I'd be pretty interested in this one, especially. I mean, the price doesn't seem awful. I don't know that it maybe the most strategic game ever, but it doesn't have to be if it ends up being at least fun. Um, so October 25 delivery date. With the
15 bucks
shipping, gets
shipping.
up to about 80. So I mean, that's getting up there. So if you don't really care about miniatures and you are willing to take the risk, I guess what other games did these guys do?
These
Ares Games.
guys created 15.
So I was just curious if any of these other ones have been available in retail after the fact, because if they haven't, then this would be obviously the time to get it. But I guess I don't know of any
No.
of these that I'm seeing, so they might not be available after. So it might be the time, probably the safest time to get it if you want to get it.
Yeah.
But yeah, interested in that one.
Yeah, me too. If you want more magnets, we've got a treat for you in Planepita.
And this might have been what made me think that board had magnets in it. I think is what because I looked at this one before the other one, and yeah, this one's a little bit of crokinole and did they say another game?
What was it? I heard Crokinole. I did not
Yeah,
remember the other game.
it's a lot of crokinole,
Yeah.
and then uh, maybe no, it's mostly crokinole, I think.
Yeah.
And but you're flicking these discs onto these different space or out onto the board, trying to knock opponents out of the way, probably try to get them out of there, and then you're making a decision on whether or not you want to flip it over, which will make it worth more points. But then the magnet is on the board, so it makes it a little bit more stable. I don't think it says they can't come off then, but I think it just probably helps it stick on a little bit
So
better
you want to
without.
secure your influence in a location, but you're not getting as much influence. So
Right.
it's a cool idea. I like that, and I like flicking. I like Sonora, another flicking
Oh, yeah.
game that we have. I like that one, and that one's kind of similar, where it's not really set of where your pieces are until the very end when everyone's done flicking all their pieces, and that one's not really a kind of area control like this one is. You're trying to have the majority in an area. That one you're just kind
Mhm.
of getting stuff for yourself, but there is some bumping off of different people and trying to get the nicest spots. And I like that in this. I think it'll be cool.
Right.
I don't know like kind of the rules of what is in this area versus that area because I saw a clip of someone flipping one over, putting it as a magnet, and I'm like, I don't feel like that was exactly where that was when you picked it up. So, what are the rules here? How strict is it?
Yeah.
One made
Yeah.
it. I
And then
don't
I,
know.
I do like the little black all-seeing eye enemy of aliens, where it will pick up any of the face-up ones in its zone at
Yeah,
the end of the round. So it also is a way that you could be like, well, this one's currently in his zone, so I can flip it over, and then I'm at least having, a little bit of influence in
yeah,
that area, whereas anyone face up is going to get taken out. So I
yeah,
do like that little twist on it as well.
yeah. That's
But
cool.
yeah, at the end of the day, I don't know how much I want another flicking game. I really love Sonora and what that does and the bonuses and stuff with that one, kind of the extra gameplay. I think I'd personally probably, even though it's probably much more expensive than this one, I think I'd rather get a Crokinole board and play Crokinole. I know Michaela really enjoyed that in our plays of that one that we did earlier this year. So, um, not saying that this one wouldn't be good, and this one probably takes up less space than a Crokinole board. Those are usually quite large. So, uh, yeah, this one looks interesting, but I think that's the way I would probably go.
Yeah, I think me as well. I just don't think this is one that we'd play enough. I'd enjoy
Mhm.
it, but probably not needed.
Yeah, it's tough just because I tend to like games with a little bit more to them, and just between this and the game we already have of Sonora, I would probably always be picking to play that one over this. So yeah, it'd make it very difficult to get it played, since this is a very like specific what you're doing kind of game. You're
Yeah.
flicking these things, so uh, yeah, it's not necessarily changing from game to game. Not that games have to, but
Yeah.
I don't know how to describe it. Not it's just like you have to be in the mood specifically for a flicking game. Uh,
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah. So that'd be $30 or 40 if you want the 5 and 6 player expansion, which holding that purple player color behind the paywall. Ugh.
those guys.
And $15 for shipping. So I think I'd go for the Vikings if we're going for a magnet game this week.
Yeah,
It looks cool.
I would agree. But yeah, otherwise I'd probably get the 5 to 6 player because I the good thing about this one is it does look like it is very friendly, family friendly. I think anyone could kind of play this one, enjoy it. That is the good thing about this level of game is you could
Yeah.
play it with pretty much anyone, I think.
Yeah. Spirit.
Spirit Path. And there was something about this cover that kind of drew me in. I was thinking, I might like this one. And then we have what's the description? Ghosts visit graveyards, rondel, and carry spirits. Pick up and deliver. Medium to heavyweight board game. This one's got $4,900, 70 backers, 9 days to go. And yeah, I think this one, outside of maybe something that I wouldn't count as my pick of the week, this one would probably be my pick of the week. Uh, I looked into this one a little bit more to try to see what's going on. I still don't fully know all there is about it, but essentially you are doing a rondel at these kind of I don't know graves, tombstone grave sites, and when you move from whatever space you're going from, you can take these little flame tokens with you. Depending on how far you move, you can take so many with you. Um, and then you'll trigger whichever space, like right there, you get to first like place one of your tokens on there if it's not full, and then you get to kind of activate those couple things down in the bottom to typically gain some sort of reward, assuming there are the flame token things there. Um, and I thought that was kind of a little interesting thing of a rondel where you're picking pieces up and bringing them with you and like having like pieces to be picked up at these different rondel spaces. I don't know. Is there some? Have we played a game that does that? I thought that part
Because
of it was
I
interesting.
guess in this, it's kind of resources that you can then spend.
Yeah,
That is very, I don't think we have anything quite like that.
yeah. So yeah, I don't know how it would actually play. It seemed like a decent amount of this seemed kind of simple. So I don't know that where it said medium to heavy. Maybe if I played it, I would think differently. Maybe I would think, oh, there's more to this than I thought. I think it's probably more on the medium to light, maybe. Uh, but maybe, I could be wrong. And then, yeah, that you can also change kind of once though I think a couple of those tokens are on these spaces. I believe then they can be, or maybe just any at some point in the game, can be replaced with new cards. So there's different actions you can put onto the previous ones that were there, and then there's kind of those three different colors, the red, blue, green, and there's like some multiplier thing you can buy during the game. So you're wanting all of them to be, or as many as possible to be blue tombstones or whatever versus red or green. And they're just kind of all these cool little bits and pieces to it. And I was like, I don't know how this would end up, once I play it. I think I would have an idea of this one maybe isn't for me, or oh wow, this was actually really really good. It kind of makes me think a little bit of what is it called? I think now it's called Sacred Valley, but Urubamba Valley, where it's like kind of a simplicity to it, but then once I play it, get to actually see how it feels, and then kind of make my mind up from there.
Yeah. Yeah, I could see this being a quite the sleeper pick here, and um, I could see myself really enjoying it. I like a lot of rondel in games. This could be another one. It's $54, which, and I don't know how available
Yeah,
it would be. I guess I don't know. This is their first created, so I don't know if
yeah,
there'd be much chance to get it later.
I
Um,
would agree, and I don't know. So is this one might be from Japan or something? So they do have like think there are ways to like import games from Japan, but then yeah, even if it is available after the fact, I'm guessing you'd pay another however much to try to ship it over.
About
Probably pretty
34
similar
bucks.
to that, if not more.
Yeah.
So it is spendier, but it does look like it's a pretty small run. So I do think this is going to be your best, if not only, chance to possibly get this, unless you live in Japan and they maybe go to like the what is it, Tokyo Game Fair.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
it sounds like they kind of. I've never been there, so I'm totally talking from an outsider's view in, but I think they kind of have game shots that have like all these small games and stuff. So I don't know if that's, if they do kind of publish these games from Japanese designers and stuff. I have no idea. But
Yeah.
outside of that, which I don't think is a for sure way of getting your hands on it after the fact. But
Yeah.
yeah,
This is what Kickstarter is made for.
yes,
Definitely.
exactly. This and then the last one too. The
The
Magnus,
last one.
it is a fun
Last one.
little.
The two sides of Kickstarter. But yeah, I threw this one in last minute. I just saw it and I'm like, oh, that's a very simple game. It's a spellwords. It's a word game. 130 backers, $3,800, 5 days to go. And you get a hand of seven cards. And there, do we have a close-up picture here of some cards? You can see they have a letter and a number at the top. And you put one out in the center. You want to get rid of all your cards. First, you have to start a word with the letter that's face up in the center of the table, end it with the letter that you're playing, and it has to be the length of letters equal to the card you're playing as well. And you just keep going until you get rid of all your cards. I thought that's a pretty cool word game. I like that. It's not a lot of guidelines of and then score in this weird way or do something like this. It's just like just come up with words that start with this letter, end with a letter in your hand, and are however long that your card says. I don't know. I just thought that was
Interesting.
kind of cool and thought we'd throw it in here since we had so few projects.
Yeah, it looks like estimated delivery of September 2025.
16
Uh,
bucks.
not
Another,
not too bad on the price point. About what you'd expect for this style of game, at least at the spellcaster tier.
and then I think you
Yes,
get your name in there if you go up to a higher pledge. So I think there's 81 cards that set in here, which I think that's okay for a game like this. A lot of times when there's word games or party games, a limited amount of cards can hurt it because it's pretty much
true.
just a limited amount of answers. But when you're creating the words, I don't think it's nearly as big a problem.
Yeah, I'd agree. But yeah, that's another one of those fun games that you could probably play with most members of the family,
Yeah.
which is good.
Yeah.
Except the ones like me who can't spell. Then we got Tales of the Arabian Nights 40th Anniversary Edition.
Yes. You
Wow,
may
that
not be able to
is
spell, but
cool.
hopefully you can read. This is all about storytelling.
Yes, that was the thing I got out of this one. 150,000, so a lot of people like the storytelling. Almost 1,500 backers, 4 days to go. I feel like the Dice Tower has brought this, well, the 40-year-old edition of this up many times. Is it a
They,
Z game? Am I
I
misremembering that, or
don't
is that a
know,
Tom
but I
game?
felt like they mentioned it all the time. Not so
It
much
seemed
in
like
the
it.
past few years, but
You know,
uh, for the
they knew
first
it was coming back.
5 years that we were watching them, they just kept bringing it up and saying, "Oh, this is not really even a board game. This is a storytelling game." And I'm like,
Yeah,
"What is this game?" And now it's here again.
now it's here. Yes, and I think what was in the video, I think it said something about so many paragraphs in the game. I'm like, wow, what a way to sell me on a board game. Yeah, I after playing games like Forgotten Waters, bringing that one back around here, or freelancers, playing games like that where there is story to
2,500
it.
paragraphs. Oh,
Wow,
that's
but
our
you don't have
rule
to
books
necessarily read the
usually.
story. What's that?
That's usually our rule books.
Yes. I don't know that I'd want to read all of this. So yeah,
Yeah.
this one I'm not that excited about bringing it back because yeah, I don't know that need another story game. I also have we have Lands of Gelzir, and I haven't actually gotten back to that one, and I'd really like to get back to that, and I think that had a little bit of story around it as well. So I'm like, well, if I'm not even playing that, and I'm much more interested in kind of the world that that's presenting and kind of the color and stuff of that one, I certainly don't know that I'm going to get to this,
Yeah,
which I think I'd
especially
be
at
a little less interested in.
$100 for even the base version. I think that's just a little too much.
It's a bit much,
I don't
but
know if it'd even be a good group game. Because I'm like, if you're reading that much, I feel like that puts more pressure on the reader, where I think it'd be much better at maybe a solo. So you can just kind of sit back and relax. So I'm like, oh, maybe Mac would like this, but she probably wouldn't like it as much if we're making her read it for us.
right,
I don't think that's nearly as enjoyable as sitting back and reading a book.
right.
But
And that's not to say I'm sure there's a lot of people that are backing it, so a lot of people excited about it, and I'm sure it could be a really good, whether or not it's a game or not, whatever you consider it. I'm sure it's got some good writing in it.
yeah,
I think when the Dice Tower brought it up, it was usually in a good way. It wasn't. I don't think it was ever like, oh, it's a terrible, terrible mess of a thing. So
yeah,
I'm guessing if they've have had 40 years to maybe make any
yeah.
changes and stuff to it or add to it, make it better. I would think that'd be enough time to make it as great as it could possibly be. So
I
hopefully
would
this one
hope
will be
so.
a great one.
Yes. Oh boy. And
Last but
then,
certainly not least.
not least, not nearly least. I was like, oh, that other one's probably the biggest, but this is the biggest, over $2.5 million, dollars, almost 10,000 backers. I mean, it's 800 short, but it's almost 10,000 if
He's
it's
gonna
not
get
close.
there.
2 days left. 2 days, 20 hours, 2 minutes, 16 seconds. Cthulhu Death May Die, Season 5, I think at this point, Campaign 4, or something like that. Forbidden
Simon just keeps printing money
Reaches. They do. They
crazily.
do.
I didn't think it'd be. Oh, and you can see there on the right something that we're the most excited
Yes.
about. You don't initially see it on this box cover. Uh, oh my goodness. Awakening Godzilla from its
If
slumber.
only I could do the Godzilla sound effect.
It is a great sound effect. And I cannot do it either. But I think Godzilla was it San Diego Comic Con? I think that's where it was kind of, there was one released, a mini for it. And I was like, well, that sucks because we were pretty big fans of Godzilla here and we were not going to Comic Con. And I'm like, that means it's probably going to sell for like hundreds of dollars on the market after the fact. And I like Godzilla, but I don't know that I like Godzilla enough to spend hundreds of dollars for a mini. Uh, and you do get the option of doing that here.
Yes.
Although I don't even know if I'd call it a mini on the hundreds of dollars version.
So yeah, so you can get $100 for the new season here,
Yep.
which I think, okay, pretty good. Probably would get that. And then you can add on. They used to have this giant Cthulhu game mode, and now they've got a giant Godzilla game mode for another $200 adding on there. Which, if that was the only Godzilla in this game campaign, I would be very sad because that is not something we would get.
Right.
Um, but they do have a smaller version where he just is another elder one that you can play against. For I think 25 bucks, you can kind of get two different sculpts. You can either get kind of the sculpt that they had there at that con, or a newer sculpt, which actually has some detail on the base here, which I'm like, okay, that's the one you got to go for. And that's a must-have. That's a must-have from this to get Godzilla in there in just an easy to incorporate way. Put him in any episode you want. Must-have. Although we have hundreds of dollars outstanding of Death May Die, they come out with this
Yeah.
and I'm like, here's another couple hundred you got to drop on us.
I know it's kind of disappointing that yeah, we'd back the other one. We still haven't received that yet. So that's something to note. Know that going into if you're backing this or not. We do have ours outstanding. I think it's supposed to be coming sometime. That is one of the things that's supposed to be coming in the next month or two. So we will see if it actually does or not. But that was pretty disappointing when I'm like, I would have maybe just rather not backed that now, and I would have backed this one and just gotten Godzilla with this one. Granted, it says July 2026, so it's going to be a ways out before this will deliver.
Yes. Yes, for sure. That's going to be a long time, which is another disappointing thing. It takes so long. But so yeah, they have the new season. So season five, Godzilla add-on. They have another Elder one that you can add on here. I'm like, just throw it in an extra stretch goal if you're adding another Elder one. And they can't just have one season. They throw in season six. So I think it's going to be 12 episodes and a ton of extra stretch goals. We're going to have like 200 characters by the end of this. There's giant dice you can add on. I'm like, giant dice? What the heck am I
Great
going to do with those?
olds.
Are those like rolling realm size dice? That would be tempting, but you're rolling a lot of dice at one time in this game, and
Yeah,
I'd have to use maybe 5 hands for that.
yeah,
But
that's the unfortunate thing with those ones. But
all of these unlocked characters, unlocked characters are probably like the least needed thing at this point.
yeah, I would agree. It's a little overwhelming, I think, even though we don't even have the ones from what I'm imagining is coming here whenever it does show up. I'm like, that's already way too many characters just in that, and now we're going to be getting a ton more. It's just a little overwhelming. It's like, oh boy, I don't know what to do here. Really want Godzilla though.
Yeah, so I think eventually we'll be just deciding who are we going to ship it to between the two of us who is going to have Godzilla in their collection. So since you got
Wow.
the last one, I think I might have to bring Godzilla home in 3 years when this delivers.
Exactly.
Pick of the week. Easy.
That's his pick of the week. I didn't know if you're going to pick it or not. But yeah, that's all of our picks. Let us know in the comments below what your pick of the week is. And otherwise, we hope to see you on our next video. And as always, don't forget to keep on nibbling on our content.